This one will be focusing on that and how we communicate with that of our teams. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Principal Mission Designer, Max Pears. Absolute pleasure to have you here. If you watched the last video, I'm still in the same attire. There are still some issues. I keep getting this mixed up over here with me unpacking, so I will get that stuff sorted, I promise, for the next time you see me. I just wanted to share more, and so like I said, timing, this is on my side here, just didn't align to get out in July, so all this may be recorded in July, but will be out for August. The big thing I want to talk about here is something that I know a lot of people look forward to in terms of like going to leadership roles, director roles. But one thing I want to talk about in terms of that as a skill that you'll need is really the element of working with your team and how to like set them up and the team dynamic to hopefully encourage and harbor a much more productive, meaning and fruitful kind of collaboration, if you will, for this. But first, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is none other than me. What I've done, everyone, and I hope you're excited for this, is I've actually created a level design kind of store. What I've done in this store is put up different kinds of tips and tricks that you can find there, whether that be my actual ebook itself to that of level design pamphlets focused on different things such as traversal, stealth, breaking into the industry, as well as different talks that I have done which you cannot find anywhere else other than on this store. So if you are looking to improve on your level design skills and processes, then check out the Level Design Store, which will be down in the description below, where there'll be a link to find this. All you need to do is head over to gumroad.com/level design lobby. I hope you like what you see, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you, and now back to the show. Now, what do I necessarily mean by that? For me, I've worked with teams that have ranged from a number of sizes, right? Where there has been 2 LDs all the way up to, I believe the biggest team I had was, I think it was 13, and that was on Division. Now, roughly, the amount of LDs I tend to see is that of about 8 to 9 for it. That includes leads and possibly directors as well. Some studios have level design directors, other ones don't. What I've really noticed in that time is us as a team trying to figure out how to make sure we're all unified towards a single goal in how we work, but also in our process as well, and making sure that the levels stay coherent, right? Because although most of the time we have the same ingredients, by ingredients I'm referring to different mechanics, but our settings are still different. The narrative we're trying to deliver will really depend on that of a certain arc that you may be in the story, the narrative for that, right? And so what I want to share with this video for it really comes down to the fact of, well, how is it that we make sure that we are all on the same page, right? Like, how is it that we all as a team are unified in that? I'm doing a talk with alumni of this, Johnny Wilson, to talk about unifying visions in a lot more detail in a different way, which is going to be great fun towards that. But that's more of an overall game thing. So I wanted to talk about, well, how do we get a team much more connected and clearly a bit more direction pushed towards it? There are multiple different ways to do this, and I want to kind of touch on a few of them. I think the very first one to me is understanding each team member's strength, right? When you're getting people on board, it's not about commanding people, meaning like, you do X, you do Y. I think the very first thing you should be understanding is what is everyone's strengths for it, right? You have some LDs who are really great at scripting, other ones who are much better at geometry, and then others have more interest in AI or combat or that of stealth, right? By understanding the team that you have around you, you can then start sort of play to that team's strengths. Or what I've seen also conveniently for it as well is teams wanting to learn different aspects, right? Wanting to see different ways in terms of how to improve themselves. So you may want to rejig things around to kind of match that for it too. I've had friends who want to focus more on becoming better scripters, others who really want to focus more on understanding of stealth, right? And from that there, decisions can start to be constructed. So I think again, the first thing is understand that of who your team is, right? Who are they? From this next point there, it's understanding next what is it that really can help make the best level. Now you'll see it in a lot of game developments. We have what you call a vertical slice, right? A vertical slice tends to be what you may see in gameplay demos for upcoming games. Like if you think, I believe Star Wars, at the time I'm recording this, Star Wars Outlaws has just kind of shown recent gameplay and missions, right? That tends to be a vertical slice. Now you can do that for marketing, or you do that for internal use only, right? I've seen Division, we made this kind of like, we made two. We made an open world vertical slice and a main mission one, right? The open world one was more focused on kind of a sniper encounter. And the reason these exist is to help directors, first and foremost, proof out ideas, see what works. Then also, this should then sell what the vision is towards that of your team. And once you've got that, once you've played around with it, normally it'll be one or two LDs working on it. I've also seen it where it takes an entire team. It really just depends on, I guess, what you really have available, right? And from that point there, it's about dissecting that. What I really think is important is having the LDs in charge relay that important information for it. What did you learn, right? Learning comes from the feedback you've given from directors, what did get approved, what didn't get approved, and sharing that. And then we can start to push things, right? You might have a vertical slice which is solely based on how the stealth works, solely based on how the combat works, or maybe even the narrative. How does that deliver? If you have AI companions in, say, something like Last of Us, well, how do they work? And what you can do there is then have that person give out correct documentation. I know documentation, everyone seems to hate it, but I think it is so vital, because the other thing that people don't realize is the team will expand and shrink all the way through development. Sadly, not every team member you will have will stay through the end of the project, and that is perfectly fine. Everyone's got their own reasons, but what we're making this for isn't just necessarily for our team to understand, but when a new person comes to join the team and take over a responsibility, well, great news, they have something already to work off. They have something that they can engage with and start to really understand what works and what doesn't. And from that point there, the other thing is I get so many people when I talk about this being like, oh, well, no, but how do I get to be able to break the rules? Like, an example would be from Peter Field, right? He makes the iconic level where the player, Ellie, sees the giraffe, right? And a lot of that comes down to the subversion of Ellie not responding to Joel and also dropping the ladder, right? And that's a really important thing there for it. It works so well. Tonally, it's a really memorable level for many reasons. But when you talk about like breaking the habit and kind of making something memorable for that, you have to remember that the only reason these have such big impacts is because rules have been set, right? It's when you get to subvert expectations because the expectations are already laid down the groundwork. Doesn't mean there's not wiggle room in there, but that's important for it. And I think it's just a really important one for us to understand. The other thing you got to think about is that of the juniors you may have. Other times it's not. I've worked in teams which have been solely senior heavy, but by having these guidelines, your juniors are going to grow much quicker because, oh, okay, like I understand this now. So that's really important for it. The next thing I think from after creating your documentation, breaking it all down, is delegating that to people, right? This shouldn't just come from one person. It shouldn't just come from your lead. By delegating this information to it, this again encourages and gives trust within your team. Hopefully, like I've sometimes seen it where people feel annoyed that they have to do it, but it is a trust thing here for it. And from that point there, man, it really does build good good camaraderie for it, and I recommend that. So we've got vertical slice documentation. The next thing is meetings, right? Regular meetings slash playthroughs. When you can go through and play through it as a team, you can then share information which you might not have had. I've had plenty of playthroughs where myself or others have set something up and then someone's like, oh no, well, I did it this way and it worked because of X, Y, and Z, instantly improves. I think having that there and sharing that knowledge is so important for all of us. So I think that again, it's just something you need and only get from actually talking and playing with that one. The next thing, having actual block out pieces for it. Your tools that you use should be unified, right? I've seen so many times, and I get it to a degree where, like, again, a lot more studios are switching to Unreal, right? But I've seen it where people just have cubes they scale and that's that. But like metrics are so important to what we do, and I've seen it where people like eyeballing the scale or having to scale doors versus just creating a door piece. So if you have constant tools for it, whether that be block out pieces, think about temporary place static meshes for AI that we can use, text that we can use, all of that again speeds it up, and also make sure when we hand it over to art, they all match from one another. Because again, you work with different artists, different animators, different times, and if they see different deliverables and different transfers from different LDs, or what's going on? Well, Shane's leveled this green meant grass, but over on Conrad's level, this green means cover, right? So by having more unified rules in the tools that we have and encouraging that for others to share it, creating pieces for it, having it in a folder everyone knows where to get to, and having that at different stages, right? Like, so everyone knows during the blockout you use these pieces, L2 you use these pieces, and that's a really important one. I think another one actually is L gates themselves. L gates can be a double-edged sword from what I have personally seen, but I think it's very much worth the price. Where basically an L gate is what you refer to like what each stage you're trying to deliver for, right? Because you tend to have to build so much, it's never just simply as you make a mission and you finish it, it's complete for good, right? What it tends to be is you get everything up to L0, L1, L2, and L3, depending. L0 is basically what I have seen is the space is you can run through, there's not much happening in it. L1 is we have like placement of where enemies will be, we have text, we have like small puzzles in there of just interacts or like Bloodgate elements like that. L3 is now they're moving, right? But they don't have the final animations for it. We have all the gameplay actually in there, not the just interact buttons we said to complete an objective, right? All those things there. By having good L8 definitions, everyone is clear, everyone is aware what they're delivering, and there'll be no pressure. I've seen it where people are looking at each other's work, trying to figure out, are they further? Are they like at L1.5 or are they L1, or have I done enough or not enough? By having these clearer moments, I think it's important. Now, I share all of this because many of you will want to get to leadership director roles, but you don't actually have to do that at a leadership one. But my element here is to share with you that all of these can be done at by different people at different levels, figuring out what the metrics are, figuring out communication with different team, right? Colors for it. By having a team take part in this and create different aspects versus only one person is doing everything, that actually brings the team closer together. It allows people to communicate and also have a moment where the team understands what it is, again, we're all building towards. So when you are planning to lead or help improve a team, again, regardless of your rank, is understand them first. I think that's the most important thing. Does the team benefit from it, right? A lot of things I've said, I've seen work, but every team is different, right? Like Ninja, we didn't do really the blockouts with kits because one, it was an organic area, and two, blockouts were more not necessarily done traditionally because the team had scanned so much of Iceland, so it changes the pipeline, right? And understanding that multiplayer games, you don't need to focus on the narrative or how I say the more believability of it. If you look at Overwatch's Venice, for example, or any other Hollywood, these areas obviously don't connect correctly in terms of logistics. However, it sells the soul of that space. So understanding that on the project, how the team works, you know. So that's the things that I'd love to, share parts and wisdom. I hope it has been an interesting one. As I said, myself and Johnny are working on a talk right now, which has far more interesting breakdown in general. But yeah, I thought I'd share this from, again, my time working different contracts, different studios. So I hope you have all enjoyed this. Really appreciate your time. Thank you all very much. And I'll catch you all next time.